In our last episode, we went up into the mountains to a place where they grow some of the best coffee in the entire world. This time around, we cross the dreaded Tehuantepec and make it to Mexico's southern border just in time to store the boat for hurricane season.
Got a big fish. It's so exciting. Look at that. Look, I love that sound.
Get it, Brenda, get it!
I got a fish. It's so exciting.
Oh yeah, pretty good size one.
It's a skipjack. We're not gonna eat that. They taste terrible.
So, back in the water it went. Well, we just left Huatulco. We've been hanging out there for almost 2 weeks, waiting for a weather window to cross the Tehuantepec. Today it's happening. We've been watching weather here for actually, well, a few months, just kind of getting the idea of these weather patterns that go through here. And typically there's a gale, it dies down for a couple of days, another gale pops up. It's just this never-ending cycle of gale to calm to gale to calm. We've been hoping that we'd be able to sail because we kind of despise listening to the motor, but it's just not going to happen. So for the next 2 days, we're basically going to be motoring with possibly a couple of chances for small bits of sailing here and there. But that'll be all right because at least the seas will be calm. We've been watching these weather patterns and they've really been blowing up anywhere from 30 to 60 knots we've seen, with on the small end 10-foot seas up to mid 20-foot seas. So flat calm and motoring, we'll take it. But the downside right now, well actually for the last 400 or 500 miles, we've had a pretty strong counter current working against us. So in general, with flat seas like we've got right now, we tend to motor about 6.5 knots. But right now we're only doing about 4.5. We've got about 2 knots of counter current. So this 48-hour trip may actually take us more like 50 or 60, just because we're going slow.
I have to fill up my pool. It's so hot here and it's gonna take a while.
Knowing that this passage was gonna be insanely hot, Brenda picked up a little kiddie pool and was hoping for the best. Best $5 ever.
Wow. Amazing. And the pool at sea.
And for the next 2 days, well, that's pretty much where she lived.
Getting there.
And depending on which one of us you talk to, almost even better than the swimming pool at sea was the fact that our zero wind forecast was a little bit off. And for the next 2 days, we'd mostly be sailing.
We got 2 fish.
Skipjack. And on our second day at sea, about half of our time was spent sailing right in the middle of huge pods of dolphins. When those dolphins weren't around, well, Brenda had her hands full catching fish.
It's a fighter.
Oh man, a fighter?
Fighter. I tried to pull him in when we were going 6 knots.
Whew, that's tough.
Hot.
Brenda had to get out of her swimming pool to catch a fish.
Uh-oh, there's another one.
But unfortunately, these skipjack were all we could manage to catch. Sail change number 8. It's been a busy day. It's gonna be a squally night. Already been seeing lightning, hearing thunder. Not very excited about it. And after a pretty squally night with tons and tons of lightning, we made it to Puerto Chiapas on Mexico's southern border just as the sun came up. We're just pulling into Marina Chiapas, and this place is funky to get into. And it smells really bad. Made it to Chiapas. This place is muggy. So now we're waiting for a boat inspection from the Navy. I think the Navy. What's that? Oh, Border Patrol, Brenda says. Brenda told me so! And after that, free to roam. But for now, we're stuck on the boat till the Border Patrol gets here, checks us out. Whew. And last night, I'm going to tell you right now, that was the most lightning I've ever seen anywhere all night long. My least favorite thing at sea is lightning. It was crazy. And right behind us came SV Rosa and SV Maiten. Look who's here!
Oh, we're just gonna chill out for 2 straight days.
Nice job, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that
Yeah,
Watoka
good job.
wasn't our last
Chincho,
I know.
nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I was feeling for you.
Well done. We all made it! Once we were tied to the dock, that meant it was time to get to work. All right, we're in Chiapas.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Check.
So we're in Puerto de Chiapas. We're gonna be here for a few days. So we're trying to put the boat away so we can go back to the States and check in with family, visit, that sort of thing. So we're gonna haul the boat out, and because of that, we got a lot of work to do before that happens. Like this, vinegar. We're gonna store the boat through hurricane season, and before we leave, wipe everything down with vinegar. Keeps the mold from growing. Hopefully.
You want me to talk about killing you?
Yeah.
Speaking of killing, there's a bug up there. This place has so many bugs, and they're huge. Tropical climates are beautiful, but they have a lot of bugs. Mosquitoes are everywhere. Sometimes I just want to kill you.
It's true! Sometimes she wants to kill me!
Don't put that on the video.
A couple of days, depending on which source you read, hurricane season starts in this area. So, we're gonna get out of here. But before we leave, got a bunch of maintenance to do, and then we're gonna store the boat on the hard while we're gone. So right now I'm going to start with changing the oil. So down here in the tropics, pretty much everything corrodes if it's sitting around. So we've got most of our spare parts sealed up with a vacuum sealer. Along with changing the oil today, we're going to strip all the lines from the boat, give everything a good rinse, get all the salt off it before we store it, pull the sails down, all the canvas, and just get the boat put away and ready to sit in the yard for a few months. So, first things first is some general engine maintenance. And with an electric oil extraction pump, this is pretty quick and easy. And after some basic engine maintenance, it was time to get to work outside.
nest. Check out that. Perfectly formed. Fortunately, there are no eggs in it yet. Bye, bird's nest.
After a couple of days of cleaning, maintenance, and just getting things put away, it was time to get her hauled out. Thanks for your help, Tincho. That's Tincho. After a quick and easy pressure wash on the bottom, off into the storage yard she went. And after what seemed like a whirlwind couple of days of work, just like that, we were out of there. We're in a little hotel in Tapachula, which is just outside where we stored our boat in Puerto Chiapas. We've got, I think, about 8 or 9 days left on our Mexican visas. So we're going to go see some stuff before we run out of time. We've got a few places that have been high on our list while we're here in Mexico, and we'll see if we get to them. But beyond all that, we've got some pretty exciting stuff that's going to happen this summer, which I'll tell you about later. But for the near term, after we visit a few spots in Mexico, we're flying back to the States, check in with family and friends, and then we're off to some other big stuff. But before I get into that stuff, I know there's a lot of people who don't understand why we would leave our boat when it's a perfectly great place to travel on. First of all, it's hurricane season. And I know technically we could sail farther south, get out of the hurricane belt, but then we're into rainy season, lightning season, microbursts, all that kind of stuff, and that's not exactly something we're looking forward to. So, I'm going to store the boat and head off across the world to see something else. And then after hurricane season, we'll be back on the boat and head through Central America, then figure out what to do after that. But for now, we're hopping on a bus bright and early tomorrow morning, and we'll go see some sights. And that's about it for this episode. Join us next time as we head inland to San Cristobal de las Casas and get our first glimpse of monkeys out in the wild. Muy fuerte, muy fuerte.